Yep. All right, let me copy the link into
we're live.
Facebook, and we're live. We're going to get started in just a couple of seconds.
Will we be able to see how many people are in?
I think so. Okay, here it is. Oh, there we are.
Ooh, there's a chat room.
Mm-hmm. All right, how do you see the chat room?
On the left, there's a blue box. You click the blue.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, okay, so I posted the link on Facebook. Do you want to get started then?
Sure.
All right, let's roll. All right, welcome back for the final time. It's the Cocktail Critics. As always, the intro goes on for entirely too long, and we have Adam, the creator of the Cocktail Critics, that's me, and Michael, the player of the Cocktail Critics, with us. So we're going to discuss the final episode. So if you haven't seen the final episode, this is a final spoiler warning for you. If anyone is watching it live, or if you're watching it later in a couple days from now, we'll be discussing everything that happened. So I guess I'll just start by saying we could not get Jack on, and we could not get Diana on, and we could not get Jacob on. And
such a hot commodity here. We couldn't get any of the finalists. I feel like that says something. I know you've been very complimentary of them. I feel like it says something about their gameplay that they wouldn't podcast.
Well, that's possible. And I'm ready to trash them tonight. I think tonight of all nights.
Yes.
So
this is what I've been waiting for. This is my vindication.
Let's burn it down. So I will say, I'll start just to continue a little bit more. For a little bit, it seemed like Jacob might have been into doing the podcast tonight. But Jacob hadn't seen any of the episodes, and he still has not seen any of the episodes. He claims some form of PTSD, not to.
What is he all PTSD about? Like, what happened that was so bad to him?
I don't know. He did tell me a couple of days ago that he donated his prize money away to some charity because he felt so bad about winning the game.
Like it's blood money or something. Like he has to get rid of it. Like it's cursed.
Something like that.
No, who was putting like voodoo hexes on their $10 bill?
I don't know, man. I don't know. So he has never seen an episode. I don't know if he'll ever watch an episode. He just doesn't. He came in with a sour taste in his mouth, I think, and he hasn't really been able to recover yet. We'll see what happens. But and one last thing we have no viewers right now. I don't expect to get too many tonight, but if we do get some, and you want to ask us a question, you can ask us in the chat, and we'll try to answer it. We do have one listener question tonight. It's an exciting night for the third time ever.
What is it, Ashton?
No. It's a different person.
Okay, I mean, like, not to be disappointed about the other person, but I wanted Ashton.
All right, so let's break into this. So at the top of the episode, Jack, well, it's kind of funny too. At the top of the episode, everyone, the three reigning players, are talking about how they all feel very confident that they're going to make it into the final round, and obviously one of them won't. But so Jack talks about his strategy, and his strategy apparently this game was to not align with anyone, and because he doesn't align with anyone, no one will get mad at him or something. What do you think of that strategy?
I guess it depends on who you're playing with. You know, obviously it works to help you get to the point where he is. You know, you saw him go through there, but you know, Jordan was kind of like that. I mean, it also makes you an easy out. There were a few times when Jack was a distinct possibility, And I think a big part of it was because he didn't have those relationships that he said it was his benefit to not have. I think it worked in this case. I think it could just as easily not work in another case. And when you get down to the end, the fewer players there are, I think sometimes not having that one person is the difference between being eliminated and getting to the end.
Yeah, I think that's true. Do you think people forgot about him? Do you think that's why he got this far? Like what? Because
I think in a lot of cases there was always someone bigger. I don't know. To an extent, I mean, the original plan I think was Moose and Jack interchangeably were the first couple that were supposed to be out, but then people just got other plans, and to an extent they forgot about Jack. To an extent they maybe didn't care, and myself included, and and then when the time came when I needed to get rid of Jack, people still didn't care, and they targeted me. So
yeah, okay. And I guess I would say, to go back to my first question was the Jack thing, the Jack strategy here. I think you're right when you said about it working for him in this game to this point. But I think if we, at least from what we know, Jack, I think had zero chance of winning, right? Like I know like Diana especially was really out on his game. She really did not like that. She thought he wasn't playing any games. So maybe that can get you pretty far to the end, but it can't get you the $100 or in some case $50 is what I would say.
Yeah. I mean, you see it on, some of the televised shows like this. There's always a couple players who don't really do anything. Everyone wants to, drag them to the end. They're, there's a name for those people. I'm not gonna besmirch them, but it usually isn't a strategy to win a game.
Yeah, I think I agree. It'll get you far. In a game like Survivor, where you get money for placing in third place, maybe it's a decent strategy if you want to win whatever they get, $20,000 or whatever for third place. But this was it was intended to be a winner takes all
or nothing.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I think Jack had an interesting strategy. I think he executed it well by doing his thing. I think he was a funny character on the show, but I don't think he could have won.
No, Jack, that strategy is fine for the first half of the game, right? If Jack would have, and to be fair, he did try to make the move against Jacob, sort of. It didn't really come out, as a significant push, but I guess we could get to that because I have more to say on that. But, if he takes more ownership in trying to get rid of me, and if he takes more ownership in getting rid of Jacob, that maybe changes his narrative a little bit. So I don't mind the concept of just floating by and hiding, but you can't do it the whole way to the end. I think that's a very tough sell.
Yeah, I think that's yep, I agree. So let's move on to that final round. I will say I think we're gonna have a lot of behind the scenes stuff tonight. My first behind the scenes tidbit for everyone who might watch this is that this round. Okay, so in the cocktail party, another rule we're changing. A lot of rules we're going to change if we ever do this again. The way it worked is the dinner host. I took us all out of the show because it didn't really play into anything except for this round, and it just wasn't worth to explain after all the rules I already had to explain. How it worked was the dinner host had between 20 and 60 minutes to decide where everyone was sitting and who was going to sit in the poison seat or whatever. And at 20 minutes, they had to have half the table set, and they couldn't change those seatings. And then between the 20 and 60 minutes, they had to ring the bell. Everyone would come when the table was set, and then the elimination would play out exactly as you saw it. There was another rule, though, that if the dinner host could get all players to agree to starting early, they could start before the 20-minute mark if the whole table was set. I personally, in my head while writing this, a lot of things, when I wrote the rules, I said there's no way this will happen, so I'll just throw this in anyways, just in case. In my head, it doesn't make any sense for everyone to agree to sit down before a 20-minute mark because everyone is part of the one person who's going to get poisoned. So like the one person who gets poisoned is going to have to agree to get poisons early, essentially. So I thought this would never happen. It happened in almost every round. I think rounds 3 through the final either ran at exactly 20 minutes or a little under 20 minutes. The final 3 round runs 6 minutes long. So that's why there's almost no footage. So that's why it's a little confusing of what happens here. Because to my surprise, all 3 players felt very sure that they were going to make it to the final, I guess, and they all sat down. So, so with all that information, that we're talking about a 6-minute round here. Let's back up a little bit further to the antidote passing. Mike, you were poisoned right before this round. You give to the antidote, and the antidote is different in this round. The player who gets the antidote becomes the final dinner host, and the antidote is out of play. So there's no more antidote. So talk about your decision. What did you want to happen here?
There were 2 things. I know we've been through this a few times regarding Jacob, and my feeling was he had some breaks given to him. So I thought it was fair for me to throw a monkey wrench at him. I thought that this would be the easiest way for the other 2 to get rid of him. And in my head, I was thinking, if either of these other 2 players, Diana or Jack, if either of them want to win, here's their chance to make their move to do so. And if Jacob wants to win, he has to earn in this final round and convince someone to do something that's out of their best interest. So I guess in a game where Jack and Diana played a more of a game than I thought in the moment. Like at the time, I thought she was doing a little bit more of the floating thing than she was way more involved than I thought. But, in a game where people were, in my opinion, maybe not playing or maybe – I kind of wanted to push everyone into having to play. And for all the playing that Jacob did, he never really had himself at risk in the whole second half of the game. So I wanted to put him in that spot and see if he could get out of it, and he did.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I might have said this already. I think, and I definitely have talked up my game that I created in a couple of previous podcasts, but I think it's unique. This game is a little bit unique in that in the final 3 round, anyone can actually go home.
Yeah,
it's the only round that's definitely a unified decision. Like we talk about Survivor.
Well, it still doesn't have to be majority rules. If there's, if both people wanted Diana out and Diana's the only one with it, and she has 6 tickets and Jack has none, Diana can get out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that, and that is kind of almost what happened. Okay, so I retract that statement. I'll say it's a little bit crazier in the final round. Everyone's a little less protected, but I think you're right about that.
Maybe that's a twist. Say all tickets, all things are off the table.
That'd be interesting.
No, that's no good. That's no good. I don't like it. Never mind.
Okay, already turned around on it. Yeah. So yeah, let's actually. It's on my notes here. You brought it up a little bit. Diana using all 6 of her invitations. I think you only have 6 if you don't become the dinner host. That sounds right. She uses all invitations to find out where the poison is and to get a seat switch. Now Jacob tells her to do this, but I still think it's an impressive move. To have all your invitations at the very end, you can guarantee yourself in this final 2. You want to talk a little about that?
Well, it doesn't guarantee yourself in the final 2 because if Jack has a seat swap also and she's poisoned, she swaps out, he swaps her back. But it's us knowing that Jack doesn't have a seat swap. There's no benefit to having those tickets later. Mm-hmm. So she's using everything that she has left in her arsenal to put herself at ease that she's going to be safe.
Yeah, I agree.
Considering Jacob was on her side, then she was 100% safe because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting about the Jack thing. I didn't think about that. I guess this could have played out a lot of different ways.
And I feel like I was the only person that was going through that had all the different permutations, and that's probably why I swapped myself into the poison seat, was because I was thinking about all the different possibilities. There's a whole untapped set of things that could happen that people just were ignoring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I think in the moment, especially when you don't have a lot of time to think about it, maybe you only see one way. And let's talk about the lack of time too. And I think this is probably the only thing Jacob does right in the final episode is making the round 6 minutes long.
Well, let's go back to that. So they went down into the basement like they always do, and just casually Jack's reading the rules and says, "Oh, Mike may not have done a stupid thing. He may actually have known what he was doing." And first of all, yes. Second of all, why aren't they then discussing that more? Like was that the only conversation that happened about cooing Jacob? Was Jack saying, "Oh, Mike may have done the right thing," which I don't even know if Diana picked up the cue that meant we can coo Jacob.
Okay, very strange. This is also something I don't know exactly about that, because I distinctly remember, because the way I edit, we'll talk about this in maybe a different podcast. We were doing an editing podcast. The way I edited the last 4 episodes was different than the way I edited the first 2 episodes. But regardless, the way I edited the last 4 episodes was I would watch the raw footage, and while I'm watching it, I would cut it on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would rearrange it and edit it later. And in that first stage of cutting, I swear I cut out a piece where they said they talked about cooing Jacob. And I don't know. And then when I went back to edit it, it wasn't there, and I didn't change anything. So I don't know if I just assumed it happened and it didn't, or if that was it. And I maybe, because sometimes I find a hint of something and I go, well, I'll look for this later in different footage, and I can build off of that and build a whole segment out of it. Maybe I was just thinking that, but I think that was it. I mean, I'm not going to watch footage again. I've watched all the footage more than enough times, but I think that's all they were talking about. I mean,
they have to be discussing that more, especially Jack. Like, that's the whole thing where you're saying, Jack was playing the game, but he was playing it by himself. Like that's the moment when you have to, that you have to do it in the final 3 when you just need the majority, in that situation to coup and to do it. Like, that's when you have to be more vocal about your plan.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and as a little side note, we have 1 viewer. So hi, 1 viewer, whoever you are.
We have a viewer. How can you see that?
I don't know. It's just in the bottom screen. It says 1 viewer.
I don't have that.
We have 1. But anyways, sorry, that totally sidetracked me while we were talking. But yeah, so yeah, Jack has to make the move at that point. If he doesn't make the move, what's his game? And I think that really does topple a lot of the arguments that I'm making for Jack. I think Jack is a really interesting player, maybe a different player than what we saw out of the rest. Maybe not super successful.
I mean, in my opinion, if we're going to criticize Diana for not cooing, which I assume we're going to start doing a lot, then we need to hold Jack accountable also for not even really putting it in her head that that's the right thing for her to do.
Yeah, I really wish we could have gotten Jack tonight. Because he says at the beginning of the episode, he has a plan to get him to the final 2. Where's that plan? You know what I mean? Obviously,
I think he did have a plan. I think he just didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, very possible. Very possible.
I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's move on. Let's move a little bit towards the end of the round. Yeah. Why doesn't Diana coo Jacob with Jack? Why?
I think it's there's on that Deal or No Deal show. Okay, so if you're down to 2 cases and one's $1 million and one's a penny, they're going to offer you less than 500,000. They're going to offer you less than than the average, because they know that it's in human nature to take the sure thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what it was for Diana. She knew she was going to get $50 out of it, and even though she probably, I assume she beats Jack. I think she does, but I think the bird in the hand was worth it for her. I think that was a big thing. Yeah, and I know we're talking about like a smaller scale of money, but on some of these other shows that are bigger dollar amounts, if you gave everyone like an opt-out button at different points in the game for increasing amounts of money, they a lot of them probably would take it. And I guess maybe it's unfair to criticize Diana for kind of taking that, but to me, that's what I think it was. I don't think it had anything to. Maybe it had to do with just morals of making a deal. Maybe I'm just such a robot that I wouldn't care about hurting someone's feelings by promising them something and not doing it. Maybe that was part, but I think it was just the $50 deal. It makes sense to her.
Yeah, I guess the sure thing is interesting. I think when you were saying that, I thought about Survivor All Stars, the 8th season of Survivor, and in that season they talked a lot about. I guess production talked about raising the prize money to $2 million instead of $1 million, and they changed that and instead opted for bigger payouts. For example, instead of from what I understand, this might be a rumor and I'm just totally misinterpreting it, but from what I understand, so like instead of second place would usually get maybe, for example,
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000. This time they get 500,000 or something like that, and supposedly that directly influenced the end game of All Stars. People were way more okay with getting second place, or I guess third place or fourth place, because the payouts were so much bigger.
It was incrementally better.
Yeah. So maybe what you're saying is right. I do think that's interesting. Let's run through real quick. Let's say Diana coos Jacob, though.
Okay.
It's Diana and Jack. I maybe it's just my irrational love for Jack, but I do think Jack can pull out a better final performance than Diana, but I don't think Jack wins. So like, here's my view of the votes. I think Jacob might be the only vote for Jack.
I think Moose
and Jacob. So that's definitely not enough. I think Jacob might be spiteful is the only thing I can think of, but even still, he might prefer Diana. I think it's a toss up there.
Well, Diana could just offer him $50. apparently that's how this works.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm so bitter.
Yeah, I mean, I've explained the $50 thing before in the third podcast. I can go into it real quick again.
I don't get why you didn't. You should have just, when you're in that car, you should have just shut it down right then. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like I made the wrong choice, but it's just a choice that I made. So
yeah,
whatever.
We knew when the game started. We knew when the game started. You had said, and I think I specifically remember thinking like that's outrageous, but I didn't push it because it was so outrageous. It didn't cross my mind that others, have this sort of like sanctity for like games like this that you or I would have.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking about the money, I was going to talk about this a little later, but let's break into the listener question. So our listener, who I suspect might be our one viewer as well, is Anne. Anne has emailed us before, and this is her question. She has multiple questions, but I'll just start with the first one. Maybe we'll keep going. You left us hanging. Did Jacob split the $100 with Diana? We need to know. The answer is yes. The reason it isn't in the episode is because I stupidly turned the camera off. But yes, they split the $100 50-50 each. I believe right immediately, right?
Yeah, it was right there at the table.
Yeah. If I would have recorded for 30 more seconds.
Let's just go back a little bit. So we didn't know that this deal was in place the entire game. I had the same deal offered to me, and it still didn't cross my mind that deal was out there. And it was after the game ended, we were all sitting around, and we numerous times, everyone kept saying, why did she do that? Why did she do that? Why did she do that? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that there was a money splitting deal. And just around the circle that we were in, just unanimously, everyone got like angry and upset, and like no one liked it. I hope it didn't come across that like I was rubbing it, that I was just kind of on my own with that feeling. Jack kind of mentioned it, but didn't push the issue. Is that what Sarah was talking about in her confessional, where she kept saying, "Don't do it"? Or
yeah, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, maybe we're being too hard on both of them, but we were all very upset. Moose kept saying, "I only want there to be one winner," and there's still only one winner, but that's not the way we really wanted it to play.
I agree. And to give some context to that conversation, this is another inside bit for you you listeners out here.
Which conversation?
The circle conversation you were just talking about, where everyone got really angry, you realized the money deal. That happened during a juror round of the game that did not air on the show. So the way it worked was, the reason I'm asking everyone at the end of every episode if they're going to be in the jury is because every player had the option to be in the jury.
This is because we had an even number of players.
Correct. Yeah, thank you.
We wanted to have an odd jury, but it just worked out that we had an even number of players.
Exactly. Yeah. So we had an even number of players. So I'm asking each person. So and the first person to drop out of the jury, that's the end of it. So everyone else has to be part of the jury. And we have a second viewer. So welcome, second viewer. It's getting crazy up in here.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, Moose, I asked him if he wants to be in the jury. If he would have said no and went home, that would have been it. Everyone else would have been required to be on the jury and stay for the rest of the day. And everyone knew this. Everyone also knew that if everyone agreed to be in the jury, there was going to be a jury-only round of the cocktail party where we would play it exactly the same way, and the poison player in that round would not be part of the jury. We did that. It just wasn't crucial to the story. I think you realized it before it even happened. You approached me before the round started, and you were like, can't we just have someone vote out a jury member or something? I don't think this will work. And I was so pumped about it. I was so excited that I would get another episode or whatever. I was like, no, we're going to do this. And we did it. And even as I was watching it, I was like, I don't think this will ever. If I can edit around this, I probably will. It just, I don't know. It just wasn't.
There's nothing really. I feel like it would be, without there being any sort of payoff to it, I feel like it would just kind of be a weird, incongruity. It would be, I don't know, what's it called? When someone's wearing a hat in a scene and then they're not anymore in the next scene. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's just a disconnect there. We didn't need it.
Yeah, we didn't. And I think also something I didn't expect was going to be possible was how easily I could edit all the jurors out of the show, excluding Moose, of course. Moose seems to butt his way into a lot of scenes, and sometimes Jordan. But even still, the jurors, surprisingly, I did not see this happening. They all basically stayed in that one living room for the whole game.
Jurors behaved much better than the players did in terms of following rules.
Yeah. So it was just easier and easier to edit the jurors out of the show, and so it created that really dwindling effect where there was less and less players that I thought was interesting. And then I didn't want to all of a sudden bring all these players back and then add another 15 minutes on it. Yeah, we talked. Yeah. But yeah, a little background information. We have the juror round, and that's when that conversation takes place. That's when you realize the money deal is happening, and you tell everybody, and everyone does get mad. Unfortunately, it was on our worst camera, so it was really hard to even use that scene. I was trying to use that scene before the final thing. I don't even know what to call it, the final dinner party or whatever. But it's just hard to hear audio on that camera and everything. It was just a lot of unfortunate situations. So it gets cut. But yes, everyone was against the money deal. Everyone was very angry about it. Ended up really being you shoehorned it. Sarah, not shoehorned it. You kind of represented it in the story of the episode, I guess. And Sarah also was very mad about it. Another insider fact, because Sarah and Jacob had that money deal, as they discussed in the episode.
Do you feel like it was her money that was given to Diana?
Yes. Sarah says when she is eliminated in the game in round 2, she wants Jacob to win because if Jacob wins, she gets $50. So in her head, the money is still hers for the taking.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Was Sarah the charity that Jacob gave his winnings to?
No, I think it was refugees or something. It was something.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it was something worth money, I suppose. Worth money. But let's back up a little bit more. We can get a little bit into that first. Let's tear apart this final dinner party. Are you ready for this?
Are you talking about the question segment?
Yes, this is some of the worst gameplay I've ever seen.
Okay.
At least in this show, maybe ever. And I've watched fan-made survivors on YouTube. So I have a lot of gameplay to compare it to. It's really bad.
I definitely don't disagree on the one. I don't totally disagree on the other, but we'll go on. Get us started, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, so I actually watched the whole season today, just because I had time. I worked at 4 a.m. this morning and was done by 11:30, so I had a lot of today off. Sort of today, whatever. It doesn't matter. Unimportant. So I watched the whole season to see if it'll give me more insight to the finale. It really didn't. We kind of discussed everything I want to discuss about the previous episodes. But so what I did for this the juror segment of the game, is I just wrote down every bad move I thought, or I guess the worst moves that I thought the players, Diana and
throughout the game.
No. Through the juror,
Okay.
like just answering I couldn't even begin to go the whole game. Here's my list. I think I have some positive things too. So in the opening statements, Diana doesn't know what to say. And so let's back up a little bit. It seems very sudden in the show, but
they spent that whole round playing.
Yes, they had 20, 25 minutes from the juror round to prepare a opening speech. It's all they had to prepare. And Diana literally says, "I think you deserve my vote because," and then goes like, and I'm exaggerating a little bit. Like she doesn't know. She doesn't know why you deserve her vote. She doesn't know why.
Oh no.
She doesn't know why she deserves a vote to win the game, which is ridiculous. She had 20 minutes or so to think about this. She should have an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, terrible opening. I'm just gonna keep going. You just stop me when everyone. Moose's question. Moose asks what they'll spend the money on. I believe, just to answer another one of Anne's questions was, we'll tackle two things at one time here. Another one of Anne's questions was, what if Jacob / Diana spend their winnings on? Jacob spent it on the charity, which we talked about. Diana, I believe, really did spend $50 on her dishwasher or something like that. Mm-hmm. So Diana answers the question in a correct way, I think. She says exactly what she would spend the money on. Jacob makes fun of Moose. He says, I'll probably buy something. Like, that's terrible. It's a terrible answer to that question. It's not a great question to begin with, but it's a low ball. Like, it is.
Yeah, it's a chance to, Diana was kind of pushing the, I need to fix something in my apartment. A chance to make someone feel good about giving you money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I may have been tempted to give an obnoxious answer if I had gotten to that point. So I probably can't blame Jacob too much. But yeah, that's not the way to endear yourself.
I mean, you can see that they're exhausted because they literally were very exhausted by this point. I think after Jacob wins, says something like, "I'm just too exhausted right now to even say anything." But still, like, you're at the very end, and I think this is where the money deal really sours for me. Because to them, the game is over at that point.
The game was already over to them, yeah.
That's why the answers don't matter to them. And that's why I'm not afraid to really finally tear into them. So
They earned it this episode.
Yeah. So then Diana tells the jury she didn't expect to be in the final two multiple times.
At least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. I cannot. If there's one thing you shouldn't say to the jury, except for maybe, I think I deserve a vote because, and not of an answer. The other thing is, I don't deserve to be here. What was she thinking? I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's easy for me to criticize it. I was equally exhausted and I was just filming it and trying to run it and solve problems, but still, I mean,
I didn't feel that exhausted. Like, I wanted to get back in there. Like, I don't know. Oh, it's aggravating.
Yeah. And then Jordan, and then move on to Jordan's question. Another Jacob makes the jury member feel dumb thing here. Jordan asked, who do you expect to go to the end with? And Jacob makes Jordan feel dumb about his question. He said, I already said Sarah. Like, that's his whole answer. Not great. Like, just say.
Say it again. Say, I had planned and expected that Sarah and I would be here.
Mm-hmm. And then in a dream situation, like in a perfect situation, like what do they call it? Like Monday morning quarterbacking or whatever. I don't watch football.
Yeah, be like, I'd hoped it would be me and you. Like, that would have been great, right?
That would have been good. Also,
like Jordan gave him the antidote, so obviously, like, there was some expectation that that there was something between them.
Mm-hmm. You could have also gone, I really thought it was me and Sarah. but nailed that point in that Sarah went home. I was very surprised by that, but then I had to adapt. You could go that way. There's a lot of ways you could go with this to make yourself better. Saying I already said Sarah and making Jordan feel dumb is not great. Dee's answer to Jordan's question is probably the best answer in this thing, I think, by either of them. She says I think she says Sarah or Jack.
Jack?
And here's why it's
also,
a good
I don't see that combination. I don't know where that comes from.
Well, here's what I think she was thinking, maybe, and here's why I give her credit. Obviously, obviously, the correct answer in that, the answer that answers that question correctly is Elizabeth. I think everyone knew she wanted to go in with Elizabeth, but what the viewers didn't see was Elizabeth was the person who was poisoned in the jury phase, so she's not actually on the jury. She does get to ask a question, but she doesn't get a vote. So there's no point in her saying Elizabeth because Elizabeth can't vote for her. So you can't make her feel good. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't matter. So she says Sarah or Jack, which is a good answer. I think you could improve it by saying maybe a vote that's more up for grabs. I feel like Sarah's probably locked in at Jacob, and Jack might be a little he seems like he's mad at Diana. So maybe you would go Jordan or Moose, but I still think it's probably the best.
Yeah, but the whole that's maybe giving credit for motives when I think she was just answering a question. You know what I mean? Like I don't think she was thinking like who can I butter up to? I think she was legitimately. You think she was?
I guess I'm trying to think of a reason why she doesn't say Elizabeth.
I think she legitimately thought Sarah and maybe Jack. Well, we'll have to ask her. It'd be nice if she was here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess the Jack thing maybe you could see because she did want to go in with Jack. I guess I could see that. She could have, right? I mean, yeah, that's true. But I guess at least in the 5th episode, she said she wanted to go with Jack. I'll bring up a Diana thing. I asked her if she wanted to do the podcast tonight, and she said, I said, here's mine. You said you don't want to do the podcast, right? Because we talked about it a little earlier. We're doing it tonight. And she says, correct. As much as I'd love to defend my stupid choices, I'm busy tonight. So I think even she admits that she didn't really. Yeah. Oh, the third viewer. This is getting crazy. Maybe it's my rants. My rants really bring in the people here.
Yes.
But anyways, so yeah, Diana, I guess, yeah, maybe she's just answering it. Honestly, I'm willing to give her credit. I think it's at least a good answer. I think it's the best answer that anyone gives. The bar is very low, though. Jacob's closing statement isn't bad. This is probably the best.
Well, no, you're skipping over some of the bad ones.
Go ahead. I might have gotten tired by it at this point.
Jack asks, did you guys make a deal to split the money? Like in the last round, do you guys make a deal to split the money? And they go, not last round or not in this round. like they threw that right back in his face too.
Yeah, that's true. It's very sassy. I guess maybe I ignored that because they're able to evade him. I don't really know. I don't know why I didn't write that down. That's really not a good thing on either of their points either.
And
why does Jack accept that? Why not push that harder, man?
I don't know. I did it too. I accepted when I kind of gave my little speech, and then Jacob said, "Oh, can I chime in?" And then they kind of did their, well, we wouldn't have gone there without each other, blah blah blah. I should have given it to them because I was like steaming when they did that. I should have gotten involved. I was worried about looking bitter, looking like that guy, so I didn't. But
oh man, it's not good. Any other question? Talking about the questions?
Nah, we can bury that one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, like I was saying, I think Jacob's closing statement isn't bad. Probably his best part of the jury phase. He claims responsibility for a lot of the moves. It could be much better if he went through, and claimed responsibility for each individual move. So he goes, I was behind a lot of moves, or at least all the moves. I think it's all the moves that I wasn't surprised by or something weird like that. That's very easy for someone who is mad at him to go, no, you weren't. I think once again, Monday morning quarterbacking or whatever, a much better way to say it is, to go, to go through each move. So in the first round, I was on the outside. I made my way in, and I'm not saying he did this. I'm saying this is what he could say.
Yeah.
I orchestrated. I targeted Moose. I put the target down, and then we executed that. I told Sarah that she should be the dinner host first, and then he could go in the second round. That was the round that I screwed up, and then he could go. But I fixed that in the third round. I checked with Adam about the rules, and then I felt safe. He could do that for the whole game.
He could have turned it into a redemption story.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
He could have really charted it. But even still, just claiming responsibility was enough in this lackluster jury.
Yeah.
And I do think the jury had their mind made up. You guys spent a lot of your time in the final round and that juror phase discussing who you're going to vote for, right? I think that was a lot of...
Yeah. Everyone agreed to vote for Jacob. The only person who was wavering was Elizabeth. And then we kind of then we just didn't let her be on the jury. So that's how that went.
Yeah.
The other thing, one more thing in that question segment.
Yeah.
It kind of happened a couple of times where they made the argument of, without me, the other person wouldn't be here. And to me, that has always been one of the arguments that I feel like holds no water and is very shaky. Because to me, what that's doing is you're taking ownership for something like Diana's taking ownership for Jacob being there when she does that. And there's truth to it. But I'm not ready to give her the credit for that. I'm giving him the credit for, convincing her to do that. You can't just be the second fiddle and say I was the first fiddle and be like, vote for me. That's a hard thing for me. And she did that a couple times. And I guess we'll get to this we'll get to this later, but I kind of saw Diana always as the sidekick in her alliances. Elizabeth was the one who was kind of, that I saw as the more of the player early on. And, Elizabeth was crediting a lot for Diana for helping her get there. But, as I said to Elizabeth, that's more of a positive note for Elizabeth than it is Diana. And then she was kind of second to Jacob later. And, Jacob saying, oh, well, Diana really helped me get here. But again, that's more of a benefit for Jacob than Diana. And that's all fine to be the second person there. But at some point you have to make the move to knock off the first person and become the first person yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, where, we've said it before and I will say it again here, that, that's where she went wrong in the game, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think I really do think it was hers to win if she gets with Jack. And I will say it worked out nicely for me for a couple of reasons, just talking from an editing standpoint. So Diana and Jacob are the two biggest non-confessional people. They pretty much exclusively don't go in the confessional room.
Unless it's together.
Yeah, unless it's together. So Diana not winning, as much as I'm open to anyone winning, but Diana not winning was a much easier story for me to tell than Diana winning, because I wouldn't have any footage of her explaining it. And another thing is, I wouldn't have any footage of Jacob explaining it either, except for that I got lucky that he got all the antidotes. So, like I said in the previous podcast, I interviewed, in between rounds, I interviewed the person who got poisoned, the previous dinner host, and the person who got the antidote. So if Jacob wouldn't have got the antidote or became the dinner host in all those rounds, I have no footage of the winner, none. And he talks about this. We talked about this a little bit. One of his strategies, and I think you see it, I think it's prevalent in the edit, is he never wants to not be out of the conversation, which is a great strategy, but terrible for editing. So yeah, he is never in the confessional room because he never wants to not be part of something. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. That it's a good strategy. People can't plot around against you when you're right there. But from the aspect of making a show, it's not not great. If I was ever in charge, I would be forcing everyone multiple times around. I'd have a loudspeaker. I'd be calling everyone into the confessional room to talk to us.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe that day will come. We'll never know, Michael.
Maybe.
So I'm going to move past Jacob winning. Do you have anything else for the rest of that?
No, I think that's all my notes.
Okay, so here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the money deal a little bit more. I know we've almost beaten it to death at this point, but could the money deal have gone wrong? I think it almost does, right? Like, I mean, it definitely gets Jacob to the end. But offers it to a fourth person, does it turn? You know what I mean? Like, how many people does
at some point do two people talk? Well, I don't think he ever offered it. Did he ever offer it when two people were in the same game together? I guess when me and Diana, but we were already. Diana or Jacob and I were already kind of null and void at that point. Like, I don't think he had two standing offers out at the same time.
Right.
If that's what you're talking about, like people comparing notes or anything.
No, go ahead.
If I would have maybe committed to that deal a little bit more, that deal could have gone wrong because I wasn't gonna go for it. But Sarah was already gone by the time he offered it to me, and then we had already kind of voided that deal through, betrayal or whatnot by the time he offered it to Diana. So it's not like two people were then talking about, it's not like he offered it to Diana and Jack, and then Diana and Jack were alone in the basement in that scene and discussed it and said, oh, we have to vote him, get him out.
Mm-hmm. I guess I was thinking more specifically, so like in the terms that Sarah thinks the money is still hers. If Jacob wins,
that's between him and Sarah.
Yeah, because that you never. I mean, you never had any intention of splitting the money, but no. You also didn't think that if Jacob won, you would get half the money, correct?
No, and I wouldn't. I don't think I would have accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have just assumed that was just a ploy or whatever, and hard to imagine for me a scenario that we would be sitting there together, but.
Yeah.
That would have been good. That actually would have been good.
It would have been super good. But anyways, okay, so let's rewind. Something I wanted to talk about, I keep forgetting about, is the betrayal. We're going back to episode 3 and 4 here, I think, at this point. While I was rewatching today, this is the one thing that I got from this. So Jacob makes the deal with you in the third round when he's going to be cooed. He gets cooed. He feels betrayed. And then in the fourth round, he makes the deal with Diana. So why do you think, Diana? Why do you think he makes this deal with Diana specifically? I guess, like, why does Diana come away with it free when you're the person who is, saying you want to work with him? You know what I mean? Like, why does she get?
I maybe was. I don't know if it came off in the video. It came off like I walked away from several of those conversations thinking, oh no, what I just did was very disingenuous. I hope Jacob didn't realize it, and I think he did realize it. Like, that's why I think like it was off the table between me and him. But in my defense, and it's not good defense, but I thought he was dead in the water. I didn't think I had to put in the time with him. Mm-hmm. Other than his vote at the end, but I didn't think I would be dealing with the fallout of a potential bad conversation with Jacob.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on to. I have like 4 or 5 bullet points for after we talk about everything for this season. Kind of looking forward.
Okay.
So let's push those back a little bit. Let's move on to twist of the week. So you have a twist of the week, and I have a twist of the week as well. Do you remember your twist of the week? I know you texted it to me. Do you want me to find it?
No, I don't remember it.
Okay, so I'll find it. But while I'm finding it, we can discuss my twist of the week. So this twist of the week is what I think would be a better alternative. So it's kind of similar to what you said, suggested about a jury member voting out or I'm sorry, a player still in the game voting out a jury member. But instead, the twist is the final the final jury member gets 2 jury votes instead of just 1. So
I think what I had said was in a situation where we need to get rid of a jury member, I think I had said the person who's the final jury member would like give the antidote to someone to poison a poison. You know what I mean? They would, I guess it's the same concept. They would, whether they're getting a double vote or they're eliminating somebody's vote, either way, it's doing the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
Or they give the antidote to one of the remaining players, and that remaining player nullifies a jury vote or something like that.
Yeah. Do you think that would work?
Sure. I mean, it would be in another situation where there's an even number of players. You know, if there's an odd jury, that kind of wouldn't be relevant. I texted you a twist.
Yeah, you did. I can't find it right now.
Not recall that.
That's okay.
Is it good?
I want to say it was decent. Oh, here it is. Okay, so sending my cocktail. He said, sending my cocktail twist so I don't forget. 2 dinner hosts, 2 poisons. If the antidote is not played correctly, there are 2 poisoned. If the antidote is played correctly, just 1 person dies.
I like that one a lot.
I think it's fine.
I like the concept of having 2, dueling dinner hosts. I don't know how it would work if they would both see where the poison is or if they'd both see where a different poison is. I don't know how the placements would work. We'd have to think about that. Like maybe each person gets to place so many people, or I don't know how we would make that happen. But I don't know. I think it'd be fun.
I think it's interesting. The only thing I love it. The only thing I have against it is, in a game where there's 8 players or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, isn't enough. If we were playing like a 12-player game, I'd be into it. Or if we did something where we brought a jury member back or something along those lines.
Yeah. The thing I like about that is the antidote could be used on somebody else. Like during the way the game mechanics worked, like you mentioned when Elizabeth was poisoned randomly, you said, are you upset that Mike didn't give you the antidote? For me, that wasn't an option because if I gave her the antidote, then it goes to another random, and then I could die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just like there's the only way an antidote can be used is if it's on yourself. But in this situation where a correct use of an antidote doesn't cause a Russian roulette effect, then you could use your antidote on somebody else without the harm backfiring on you. So that's a layer of it that I liked.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think I'll just say this now. We talked a little bit about this. I have been searching for a way to get around the random draw to get rid of that. I think I found a solution to it where, and I think we talked about it a little bit, where, okay, so let's say the person who gets poisoned plays the antidote in their glass, or whoever plays an antidote on them or whatever. Instead of going to a random draw, what I'm thinking of changing it to is the person who's so let's say, for example, I'm playing and you're playing and Jacob's playing. Mm-hmm. And Jacob's the dinner host because that's a thing that he likes to do. And Jacob tries to poison me, but I play the antidote in my glass because I know he's going to poison me because I'm a perfect player. So instead of going to a random draw, what happens is I become the dinner host now. So immediately, without anyone talking, I take his seat. He sits down, and then I choose who gets poisoned. And that's it. That would be it. So there wouldn't be any toast at that point, I don't think. We could talk about that maybe a little bit. And there's no talking at all at the table. So
that kind of becomes like an immunity idol of a sense. You can't split votes on it, but that person would then, that person's vote kind of becomes the one that could be the deciding factor.
Yeah. So I think that encourages people to play antidotes for someone else. But it also adds an interesting level where if you're playing an antidote for someone else, you do still have to totally trust them because then you're giving them all the power. I don't know if it makes it more interesting. I think getting rid of even as just a thing to get rid of the random draw, I'm more inclined to put that in the game. I think that's probably what's going to happen if we ever play again. We'll see. And then I was also thinking with your twist, I was thinking about Big Brother where they do the 2 HOHs. You could just do 2 dinner hosts. excuse me, and 1 poison glass. I don't know how that would work out either, but that also could be interesting, I think.
Then, yeah, regardless of how many poisons there are, then you'd have to come up with the situation of who's placing the order in which they put name tags down.
And you could even do something like if they don't agree to it by the end of the time limit, then it's like a 50-50 shot. You know what I mean? Like it could just be at that point, it could be random. But I hate random, but just between the two of them instead of all the other players. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I guess basically exactly like Big Brother.
There's room to work with it.
Yeah. I think those are all good things we talked about. Good twists there. Want to move on to the rankings?
Sure. I did not do any of this, but I can. Okay. Are we ranking the 3 finalists in this episode? Or are we doing like a full season ranking? What do we want to do here?
Let's just do the final 3, because that's all I did. And we can save a full ranking for maybe a different podcast later or something. For me, it's a total crapshoot. I could have the third person number 1. You know, it's.
I think I have a very clear, distinct order. 1, 2, 3.
All right, why don't you go then? Because for me, it really did not matter. I think my number 2 is locked in, but that's about it.
I think that's weird. I think my number 3 is Diana.
Okay, go ahead. Why?
Because I think she makes, there's not a lot that she did right this episode. She missed her opportunity. In the actual final 3, her best interest was to coup, and she didn't do it. And then when she got her chance in the finals, she really, not only do I feel like she didn't do a good job, but I feel like she actually sort of made Jacob's case better than Jacob made his own case. Like she would have had a better chance if there was like no talking involved.
Yeah.
So that was too harsh. But
get back.
She'll never watch it. I'll give her 3rd for that reason.
Okay. Why don't you just do the whole list? Because I really did not have any. I felt they all played horribly. So why don't you just?
I have Jack 2nd.
Okay.
Jack had the right idea to coup, but he didn't do anything about it. He didn't use any sort of persuasion or real attempt to get Diana to do what he wanted. Mm-hmm. And that's it. The fact that he wanted to do the right thing is enough to put him ahead of Diana, but not doing anything to put the whole game. My issue with Jack the entire game was that he never took control. He never took his fate into his own hands, and that cost him here.
Okay, and then why do you have Jacob at number 1?
You're really down on his final table segment. I thought in many cases he didn't do a great job either, but he did take ownership in some cases. I think he answered honestly, even when it wasn't the answer people wanted to hear. Another situation like the last round where maybe it was just the best of the worst. He did the least wrong. So I put him first.
Okay. I think that's
gun to your head. What's your ranks? What's your choice?
I just had them all in the order they went out. I just had Jack, Diana, and Jacob.
Okay.
Just because I felt like Jack, if he wanted to be in the finale, I feel like he could have been. If he just would have pushed harder, maybe put a plan out there. Diana, I feel like, could have taken it. Maybe that does put her at 3. I'm open to 3 because I feel like she could have won this if she really wanted to, but she chose not to almost. And then Jacob because he won. That's the only reason I gave him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Diana not cooing is every bit as bad as me moving directly into the poison. I kind of feel like she did the wrong thing in 2 rounds of both the final 3 and the final segment, and Jack only did wrong in the one round, and he intended to do the right thing, even though it didn't play out.
I'm fine with your rankings. I think that's probably a little more accurate. Do you have any inkling on edit for those?
Oh, I didn't even think about it.
Okay, if you don't have one,
I feel like everyone was like invisible, right?
Yeah, it wasn't great. But anyways, so let's move on past this season. You have anything else you want to say about the season in general?
No, we can forget it happened, right?
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I have one more thing. One more thing about the season. Just favorite episode. Do you have any recollection? I mean, I watched the whole thing today, so I have
favorite episode. By far, episode 2, right?
Why is that?
I mean, for me, it was a fun episode because I was kind of the making a move that really changed everything up. It was fun knowing that I decided people's fates. And I thought that there was just a lot of interesting dynamics. I don't remember how it played on the show, like on the video. But I remember it just being an interesting set of things kept changing and scrambling, and to me that was the most fun. Are you gonna say round 4?
But that's not the round you go out.
No, yeah, I know. That's the round before.
Yeah, round 4 is my favorite actually.
Okay.
Just from more just from an editing standpoint, I think though, because that was the time that I could really tell the story the way I think it happened very accurately.
That was the other round that I feel like things were happening and things were changing and that sort of thing. But those were the 2 fulcrum point rounds in my opinion. And that's what made them the 2 most entertaining probably.
4. I don't know. I just liked. I was able to set up the antidote thing really well, I think, and it was just an exciting finale. The whole thing I think was interesting for me. And then on the rewatch, I really ended up liking 5 because something that I did in the editing I really didn't like when I watched it last week, and this week I really liked it. I made a decision in the editing for episode 5 to really focus on the silence in between conversations and the thought process. And watching it watching it last week, I thought it was really boring. There was a lot of silence. Maybe that still carries off to a lot of people, but watching it today, I really liked it. To me, it came across what I wanted to come across was that everyone was trying to think of a way to get to the end, and no one could really figure it out. And there's a lot of like Jack. There's that scene with Jack, and he's just like sitting there, and he can't figure it out. There's that scene where Jacob's at the piano in front of Diana, and he's just sitting there and he can't figure it out. And Diana has that confessional where she is like, I don't think I can win. And you're not really, there's no real silence with you, but you're also kind of, you can't figure out how to get to the end. So I really liked that dynamic, and I'm glad at least
it kind of also represented like the lack of information that was being passed around, the lack of like good communication too.
The only episode I didn't like was episode 3. I felt like it really it got away from what actually happened. But I feel like I'll stand behind the decisions I made for editing it. But I feel like, it wasn't a good round. Even in person, it was a very unfun round to be part of.
Yeah, I feel like you even edited it. Well, I felt like certain things were omitted and different things, but it came out as more exciting than I thought it would. I mean, round 3 was really like, it was kind of a drag of a round.
Yeah. And then I'm not super pumped about the finale, but I do think it's a decent episode. You know what I mean? Like it's like a C or a B minus. As far as things that I produce, not actual comparing it to others.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Another question here from Anne still.
Okay.
When is the next season of the Cocktail Party? Let's break into this. The next season of the Cocktail Party, I think we can finally announce that we are at least making plans and moving forward on a Cocktail Party season 2. And we plan to, at least at this point, film it and run it in the early summer, which leads me to the next part. As we know, as we discussed in the Cocktail Critics, the game will be very different. I plan to do another podcast before the game starts, explaining all the different rules and going over the twists we talked about, twists that can be possible. And with that, I want to announce that we don't have a cast locked yet, but we do have one player locked in, and that player is
who is that?
Myself. I am going to enter the fray. I am going to be in the next cocktail party if it should happen. There's no guarantees in anything, but I really do think it will happen, and I will be playing, and I will be playing quite the game. So I thought it would only be fair, because I have such a big advantage, because I'm so much smarter than the other players who I don't even know who they are, but I know I'm much smarter than them, and I'm a much better player. I'm going to play a perfect game. I just wanted to, so I said, since I'm going to play a perfect game anyways, I will tell all the players, even though they don't know that they're playing yet, I'll let them know that I'm playing. So that they can know that I'm playing. They can know that to not even show up that day if they don't want to. Just drop their $10.
No, we need people to show up. We're going to have a turn getting 8. We need.
Yeah.
Don't tell them not to show up.
Okay, yeah. Okay, but yeah, so I'm going to be playing, and with that, since I'm going to be playing, we need crew, and we've locked down 2 people to be in that crew. Do you want to talk about that, Mike?
Yes. Do I know who the other one is, right? Is it?
I think so.
Okay. Myself and Elizabeth from season 1.
Correct. Yeah, you.
I'm glad it was her. Yeah, it'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Adam is still going to do the editing. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You're not going to make me listen to whispers all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. We're both really excited to do it. I think we know the things that worked. We know the things that didn't work. Adam will be a big part of. We'll all be a big part in changing the rules to make them something that works and that's fair. In terms of editing the show, having 2 people will really help our ability to get people organized and doing the right things and being in the right places. Mm-hmm. Being someone who liked to give confessionals, I'm going to really, make sure people are doing that, and it's going to be a well-produced show. It's going to be run like I'll be a drill sergeant. Like it's going to be people are going to be trying to poison me.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. One, because I'm very excited to play. Even if I got in the first round, I will just be very pumped that I got to play the game that I created. Not that that's going to happen. I'm definitely going to win. But anyways, I really think so. In creating this season, the one that we just finished, season 1, I was the only person who did the rules, and I didn't know how any they were going to play out. So I was taking a big risk there. I think a lot of them worked, a lot of them didn't. So yeah, I think it's going to be really great to sit down with 3 people, maybe even more if we can get more people from the first season just to talk about the rules, what they thought worked, what didn't work, just hash out some things and make it a better, more concrete game. Make it a better game. Make it more difficult for the players to make it through the game. Make it harder. Is things that I want to focus on, and I think we'll be able to focus on it with a group as opposed to just me thinking all these things through.
You can't know how something's going to play until you see it play.
Exactly.
I feel like we've talked about the couple things like the money that didn't go well, but overall, I mean, it went really well. Like it was a really well thought out game. It played well. Mm-hmm. It was exciting. I'd like to see a whole group of people who are really playing and really into it. That'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. I do think most things went well. Yeah, but and who knows? Maybe by the time we want to do a season 3, the game will again totally change. We will have put all these rules in that we think will work really well for season 2, and they end up not working as well as we thought, like some of the rules from the first time. So it might be a totally different game too, but it's fun to experiment and fun to nail down a really interesting game. And I think we will get there. So once again, we're hoping to film it this summer, early summer. And we'll we'll break into Anne's last two questions here with us.
Okay.
She really left a laundry list of questions here, which I appreciate. Don't get me wrong. She says two more. How can I become a cocktail party contestant? And is there an age cut off? So anyone who wants to be a cocktail party contestant can contact me at mpstorycircles@gmail.com. Anyone who contacts me will certainly be considered. It's more of a situation of, are you a shady person? Can I let you in my house for a day? Will you bring the $10 bill? Stuff like that I need to consider before I allow you into the season. But yeah, if you want to play, just email me at mpstorycircles. If you're available on that day, who knows? Who knows what can happen?
We're looking at you, Ashton.
Yeah, we're looking at you, Ashton. Get in here. Get into the States. Age cutoff, no age cutoff. Probably no one under 21 is what I would say, but no older thing. So she says, thanks for a great first season. I enjoyed watching it, so thank you. And so yeah, if you want to be part of it, just email us. I'm going to end with talking about a couple more podcasts we might do. So like I said, we want to do a Twist and New Rules podcast. I think that one's a definitive yes. We'll probably do that podcast.
I feel like it has to be. If we're going to implement any of those things, it has to be. It has to be on tape, since you'll be privy to the ideas.
Yes, I agree. And I would like to, in that podcast, give you guys the rules ahead of time. Have you and Elizabeth there, maybe another person too. Give you guys the rules ahead of time, and then just try to break them. Like spend an hour and a half just trying to break the rules.
Okay.
And then, like,
okay, go on. I have another twist, but finish.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to figure out a way to break any of those rules. Go ahead with your twist.
The ability for like the host or production crew to enter the game. Right? Yeah, thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll workshop it. We'll put it in.
We got to save you for a little thing called our All-Stars, Michael, here. We don't want you to let you in too early here. We'll see, though. You never know. We all know how the coaches went, So yeah, Twist podcast, I would say, is definitely coming up. I would probably say not for a month or two. I'm starting to work on other projects. Maybe a winners podcast with Jacob. Like I said, he hasn't seen the show yet. He didn't want to do it tonight, but you never know. He's pretty open to a lot of things, so he might eventually down the road want to do a podcast. Just tonight wasn't the night, I don't think. And then maybe an editing podcast would also be interesting. I think as well. We'll see. And then I want to also say there's a possibility, it's a very small possibility, of a live reunion show next Sunday, April 1st. If we can get, I think, like half the cast, I'm willing to do it. That's one of the reasons we did live tonight, was to test that out. So two viewers, if you want to see the live reunion show. Yeah, well, we actually had 4 for about 30 seconds, so it's pretty exciting. I think someone clicked on the link by accident, so that was pretty exciting. Yeah, but if you want to see the live reunion show, it will be possibly next Sunday, April 1st, and that is not an April Fool's joke. So with that, that's really all I have for the cocktail party. If you're a Micro Productions fan, I'm working on a short film called Micro Jumper, which is where the channel got its name, and it's the first project I ever wanted to do. I was just waiting for the spring. I'm doing a rewrite on the script right now, and then we're going to start filming. I believe Aiden is probably going to be the lead in that piece there. Aiden was on the podcast last week. And then I'm also starting work on a horror thing, probably about an hour long is what I'm looking at, and horror anthology series. It was Spooktacular in the name. That's about as far as I've gotten so far. Something Spooktacular. So that's going to wrap it up for me with the podcast and season 1. Do you have anything else, Michael?
No, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Glad we could talk about it for the 3 or 4 people.
Yeah, the podcast was fun to do.
It was fun. It was enjoyable.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing too. We'll say real quick. The podcast. I will not be on the podcast next season. I don't think. If it happens, and I'm going to play if it happens. So I'm going to take myself out just because I don't want to crowd the podcast with 4 people. I'll be on my winners episode when it's all said and done. I'll tune in for the finale winners episode. But besides that, I want to step back from the podcast. So it'll be you and Elizabeth and probably the boot for each week.
Cool.
But with that, I think that's it. So yeah, anything else from you?
No, it was fun, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. It was a lot of fun. So with that, let's wrap up season 1 of the Cocktail Critics. Maybe tune in the finale for next week. If you want to be part of season 2, email me at mpstorycircles@gmail.com. With that, signing off until next season.
Micro Productions.